Welcome to another episode of Bent Not Broken. Heartbreak and trauma may feel like the end of your story, but here it's the beginning of a bold new chapter. I'm your host, Coach Deborah Griffiths, and this is the space where women rise, rebuild, and rediscover their purpose. Remember this truth: you are bent, not broken. Welcome. I am so happy to be speaking with my next guest. She is driven by a passion to help others. She's a strategic marketing enthusiast, a relationship builder, and an advocate to help end parental alienation. She's also a wife, mom, and stepmom. Please welcome Kindra Foley. Kindra, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm so excited about what we're going to talk about. And although it's a sad subject in a way, it's so important because I'm sure not only have we both experienced this, but I'm sure many others as well. So, welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yes,
So,
so happy we're connecting again. So
yes,
it's perfect.
absolutely. We need to connect more. So, I'm thrilled.
Yes.
As we both know from our lives, we both have gone through divorce and we both experienced some what's known as parental alienation. Can you take me back to the beginning? What was your divorce like and when did you realize parental alienation was occurring?
Great question. My divorce or separation started in 2018, and it was due to an affair that was had. But what I didn't know was the other woman involved had alienated her other kids from grandparents and parents. And so she knew how to do it. And I hate to say it, it's a lot of revenge. It's a lot of hatred towards a parent,
Jealous?
jealousy,
Yeah.
and the kids just get caught in the middle and they're so young. Their frontal lobe is not developed. So they don't even know it's happening. Their instinct is to love both parents. But if they're forced to choose, and given the circumstances that I went through, which I can go into, there's just no match. And sometimes to be the better parent, you just got to walk away.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
It is very much. So when did I realize it was happening? Probably a good year or so into it. There was false allegations of different things where he was trying to find things wrong with me, calling the cops on me all the time, calling the guardian ad litem. Our divorce took over 3 years to settle. And so, when he was calling and making all these accusations, I just kept kind of laughing it off, not realizing what was happening. As there was more accusations made, there was more hesitation in the court, right? Whether it was proven that it did or didn't happen, the children, they never want to put them in the position where, well, it could have happened or it might happen or it might happen again. Even though there was proven that there was nothing happening in our marriage before then, it's just the court does not want to get into that. So as soon as a restraining order, a protection order is filed, that is basically where things start. And they always say, I actually interviewed an attorney that owns a very large firm, and he had said that that is basically the poison that just starts it. So if at all costs you can avoid a protection order that is valid, but really anybody can file it for anything anymore. And you include the kids, and that is the start of where it starts downhill. And so I had laughed that off. I was like, oh my gosh, one more thing I got to jump through, not thinking. And then as I experienced it, I started educating myself. I started talking, I started Googling, and I realized this is a whole thing that affects millions of Americans. And it's just so sad.
It is. So, for our listeners, how would you define, or is there a legal definition of what parental alienation is?
Great question. So there is a definition that you can look up. I will just give you how I define it.
Okay.
And estrangement is sometimes what people use. But if you are estranged from a parent, that is usually a decision you make as you are older, or maybe that is something that happened younger where there was abuse or something involved. But alienation involves a whole family. It can actually happen when you're currently married to someone. So if they are going against what you're saying for the children, you're not aligned in your marriage, that is alienating the child already. And so that can continue. So if you think about getting separated or divorced, they just intensify that. And so alienation is really where the child is separated from a parent or a whole family for no really justifiable reason at all. And nobody can explain it.
As you were talking, I flashed back into my own experiences, and I now see where very early on in the marriage, as the children started to become, were born, I can see where the oldest one was being alienated against even his other siblings. And
Hmm.
that's where I kind of see how that started. Very interesting. So, yes, and for our marriage, it's really important for the mom and dad, even before the kids come along, to be aligned in their parenting skills
Hmm.
and their
Yes,
expectations. Wow.
exactly. Yeah, because it can go sideways really fast. And alienation is more of a manipulative. Estrangement might be they just don't know a parent, but alienation is very manipulative. A parent might know that they're doing and they might not even know that they're doing it, but it's just psychological. Several examples that I'll give is punishing a child for choosing to go to their parents' house, say, if you have a standard order on a Wednesday. And maybe that other parent will be planning something really fun. And so now the child has to choose, well, do I really go see mom or dad? Or do I stay with the parent because now, they're going to go do something really fun when I'm supposed to be spending time with mom or dad on Wednesday night. And so there's a manipulation behind it. There's a psychological that the parent can use to almost have the child replace the spouse and feel sorry for them. And they feel like they have to fill that void of where the spouse was. So even if there's somebody else in a relationship with them, they'll still fill that void. They'll still say, you have to take care of me. I'll cry, if you leave, and playing that versus being the adult, but being more of a friend. And as you can figure, a child is really young, trying to figure out everything. So that is really pulling on their emotional strings, saying, well, I have to stay home and take care of dad because he's really upset and he can't survive on his own. My son sat on his bed at my house and he said, I have to call and check on dad. And I said, why? And he said, well, because last week he fell in the store and passed out and hit his head and we almost had to call the ambulance. And I was like, really? And I didn't know what to say to that, so I kinda made light of it, and I kinda joked. I said, "Well, don't you ever worry about me, buddy?" And he's like, "No, mom." He was like, "You have friends and you work out and you have a great job and all these things." And I'm like, "Oh, so he knows I'm okay, but he has to go take care of the other parent."
That is such a heavy burden to put on children. I'm curious as to what the ramifications for that child and those children that are being alienated. What are they going to be like when they themselves become adults and get into relationships? That has long standing implications.
Mhm. You know what? And I think we now are aware of it, so we'll be able to measure that as we move forward, but I don't think we were aware of it before. And what I always thought is it was what we call deadbeat dads. Usually the dads were alienated, right? The moms kind of had them. And we thought, oh my gosh, they're paying child support, but they walked away from them. Well, I will tell you, if you're going through alienation, it will tear you down emotionally, physically, financially. It just breaks you to your core. And so I can see now how if dads were fighting this battle, trying to fight for their children, that they either ran out of money or they emotionally just could not do it because it is such a toll on your body and your finances.
So, how did that alienation affect your relationship with your kids, both emotionally and physically? What happened?
So my oldest definitely fell into the trap with his dad right away. You know, playing the game that I was always the bad parent. I'll tell you something else is I was the disciplinary parent. Well, no child, if they get a choice, wants to go with the disciplinary one that has rules, right? They want to go with the parent that is more fun. Choosing to be with his dad right away, but also recognizing that playing right into, well, dad would cry and he doesn't know what to do when we leave to come to your house and all of this. It has taken a long time. I still don't have a relationship really with my oldest son, who's now 18. So it's been about 6 years. My youngest son has been on and off for the past 6 years. I had 50-50 custody of both of them, but the youngest one fought as hard as he could. But I will tell you, there was things that he was not getting Christmas presents like all the other four kids in the family were. He was getting nasty notes from the elf. He had to do everybody's laundry. He slept in the basement. He couldn't have ice cream or sweets or any sugar at night. So it was just a game that was played with him. And so he fought so hard that I remember this very vividly. We had been together almost after the initial protection order was filed, and I was separated for them 8 months. Then I got back reunited with him and had 50-50 for about a year. And it broke him so bad that finally he just came to me one time. He's like, Mom, I just can't go. I can't go anymore. And I said, I understand, buddy. I did not want to keep putting him through that psychological and emotional abuse. It wasn't worth it. And I knew he would come back. And so after 5 or 6 years, we're actually seeing each other again once a week and have a relationship again. It's hard, but it's good. It's where it needs to be. So
That's so good to hear. I will share with you. My oldest one was really the one alienated from me, and it's taken a good 20 years. And through the course of these years, just bit by bit by bit, just rebuilding that relationship. And I liken it, I want to say the 3 Ps. You have to be patient. You have to be persistent and consistent with trying to reach out with, even if it's a weekly phone call or a weekly text or something. And then prayer. I had to just put it in God's hands. So that's it's taken a long time. I wish it never had happened, as I'm sure, you do as well.
yes.
But it's
Yes.
good to hear that things are starting to turn around in your case.
Yeah. And I will agree with those 3 Ps. That was said perfectly. I mean, persistence. I sent cards almost every week, and then I would send cards for birthdays. I would send text messages. Sometimes I was blocked, sometimes I wasn't. I would still send money or gift cards or things like that in the cards. I would send boxes of candy and different things, just trying to stay connected. And then patience is a big one. You had to be patient. And during that time, I will tell you, when I first got my divorce, the commitment to myself was going to be I'm not going to say no to anything a friend's asking me to do unless it's harmful to my health or my body or going to get me in trouble. And so I went out and did anything that anybody asked me to. I did boxing class, which I had never done before. I did yoga. I took long walks. I got a dog, a puppy. There was all kinds of different things. And I truly do believe in that time where you're patient is also the time you rebuild yourself, because you have to be ready, as you know, Deb, you have to be ready for them to come back. You have
Yeah.
to be in a very good, stable relationship or by yourself and very secure. You have to be emotionally ready for them to come back, right? You have to be financially ready for them to come back because it's going to be tough. And so during that time, I really was very patient with the process and worked on myself. And then prayer, everybody said, "Well, I'll pray for you." And I said, "Don't pray for me, pray for my children. Pray for my ex to soften his heart." And that's what I prayed. So you're right. I totally agree with the 3 Ps.
And it's not easy. It is not easy. There's times you want to put your fist to the wall because something is said and it's like, why? But again, you just have to take the high road
Mm,
at the end of
yes,
the day.
you do.
Why do you think parental alienation is so misunderstood, especially by the legal professionals and the mental health providers?
Yeah. So I think that the therapist and the mental health providers are quickly coming along. They're understanding a little bit more. The courts don't understand. When there's physical abuse, they can see that. When there's emotional trauma, they don't understand that. And it takes a long time to prove. And you have to get therapists and psychological reports and different things together to prove it. So it's just very hard to prove as and it really depends on your county that you're in. So depending on certain judges, they really believe in it. They've gone to these seminars, they're learning. Just in the past 5 years, this has just exploded and people are learning more. I will tell you when I first went with my first therapist, it was kind of a waste of time because I sat with her and I would tell her everything that's going on and she wouldn't have any advice and she would listen to me, but she's like, "I just can't believe this is happening. I don't even know what to tell you." Like, you weren't helpful. Well, I can tell you then, like, 2, 3 years down the road, I went to a different therapist, and that therapist completely understood and led me in the right direction. And so it was just it's definitely being heard more.
Well, that's good, and that's hopeful for anybody that is experiencing it now that there's more
Mhm.
understanding, more education about it. It's still working with the courts and the law, which is going to transition me to my next question for you, which is what motivated you to take your pain and turn it into advocacy?
One of the therapists that I had over the years told me that sometimes helping others is the biggest therapeutic thing you can do for yourself. And
Mm.
so I felt surrounding myself with the same people that had gone through it and trying to make a change in the right way with those people that have gone through it, speaking at the state house and trying to get our message out that this is really a problem and to take it seriously, right? Our lawmakers have to take this seriously. I felt as though that was helping me cope and helping, even if it didn't change for me, I was helping my children's kids, maybe, or my children that would go through it. And so that's what really drove me to make the change is once I experienced it. It's so hard, and I am a very strong individual, I would say, that I knew God put it in my hands and connected me with the right people for that reason, and that's what I needed to do.
That's excellent. Can you talk a little bit about what some of the policies or laws are that you got behind and helped implement for change?
Yeah, so actually some of them are still working through. So there's a couple House bills that been on the docket in Ohio for several different things, trying to pass more of a shared parenting 50-50 equal rights. So that is not just right now we have standard order. We have, when parents are together, we think we don't think anything of it when they divorce and one gets standard order. Will you just get visitation with your children? That's horrible, right? It should still be 50-50 as much
Mm.
as you can work it out. And then the parents should decide what that schedule is best with the kids because that's their family, not the court. You get court involved, you get a guardian ad litem involved. They have absolutely no idea.
Right.
And so trying to change that in Ohio, as we change those laws or we try to, representatives will and so you have to get a bill passed pretty fast, or at least to the Senate, right? Through the House to the Senate, all within the time frame, usually before they take a summer break, because then when they come back, it stalls out and different things. You have different organizations that are presenting different bills. We even had one bill that was competing with ours at the time. It was actually proposed and run by lawyers, by the Bar Association. So what do you think that's gonna benefit? The Bar Association doesn't want to see more lawyers make money in their pocket. And so I even became pro se at that point, and I made so much progress for a year and a half being my own attorney and not spending all that money. And you can actually do it. And it's more influential because the judge is hearing directly from you or the magistrate's hearing directly from you versus an
Mm.
attorney. That will tell you the magistrate that I had likes to just settle in the middle. So if you can just agree with the attorney, you will save yourself a lot of money, but you have to know whatever you're going to ask for, you're going to land somewhere in the middle. So over ask and hopefully land somewhere where you want to. But with all that being said, now there's a new bill. So that bill's out of the House. And so now there's a new bill that's proposed that we're looking at that we might back. But I work very closely with the National Parents Organization, and there's usually one in each state. I was asked to be on a movie, We the Parents, and so that's on YouTube if you look it up. So I was actually on that. I made some friends that are changing laws in Texas because some of actually you'd be surprised, but some of the biggest alienated parents, the largest group is military. Because if they come back and get divorced, the court sees them as, well, you haven't been around your children for 6 months or 9 months or a year or 2 years. And so you haven't seen them. So they have a relationship with this parent. So we're going to give them full custody. And so that's what happens when they get divorced. And so I have several friends that are in the military that's fighting to change those laws too in California and Texas. So the gentleman in Texas did a great job at getting it passed. And now he's working at getting it passed in other states as well.
Wow, that's amazing. I never really thought about the military being so impacted that way. And it's horrible because they sign up, they serve our country, they go overseas, they're deployed, and then they come back. Not only are they dealing with the aftermath of their deployment, mentally, physically, and all that, then they're dealing with the aftermath of a divorce or family issues. And then it's like the rug really gets pulled out from underneath them.
Mhm.
That's so sad.
It is.
Looking back, what would you tell another parent who is just beginning to experience alienation, where they should start and what they should not do?
Mm. Oh, I would say looking back, educate yourself. There are lots of books out there. There are lots of people. There's a lot of advocates you can reach out to in getting help. If you just do a Facebook search on parental alienation or a Google search, you will find so many people out there now that is talking about it. Just even in support groups, right? There's Facebook support groups. There's calls on Zoom that they do across the US is a support group. So get yourself surrounded with the people that's gone through it. Secondly, I would read Amy J. Baker's books. She has several out there for parental alienation. It'll help you understand a little bit more of the psychology of what's going on in the child's mind and also in the other parent's mind. And so Amy Baker is fantastic at just explaining it because it's not the child's fault, even though you will think to take it out on the child or blame the child, but they're really just repeating what their other parent is saying. Sometimes, even if they come to your house, it might take them a day or 2 days to kind of decompress from that other parent. And
Mhm.
you got to let them do that. Do not get defensive. Do not play into the whole game because that's what the other parent wants you to do. Always be the bigger person, always be more understanding. Never, there's certain things you say in alienation and certain things you don't to the child, right? So sometimes they might say, well, I remember you did this or you did this. Well, you can just say, I'm sorry that you remember it that way, but that's not the way I remember it. Or I'm sorry if you felt that way or things like that. So just so you're talking to them and understanding their feelings, but yet, leaving room for that apology and working through it. I think that's the biggest thing looking back is I was so defensive. I was so hurt for a year or two. I was so mad and I didn't have the education behind it. I didn't know how to handle my children or my ex. So, Amy J. Baker, there's like lots of psychological books out there. That's what I would recommend. But the National Parents Organization this is very high on their list to get some bills passed.
Excellent. So, how are things today with your children, and what does healing look like for you now?
That's a great question. So, healing for me started from breaking down completely all the way, and it took a little while, right? And I would have days of just crying so much, and I think I shared with you I couldn't pick myself off the floor. Mm, And then there would be days that I would be okay. I think I actually lost a job because of everything that I was going on. And that's typical in alienation because you're so involved in it and it just consumes you. So I had to set boundaries for myself. When I got my new job, I was like, I'm going to work my job 8 to 5. And then after that, I'll look at the emails. I'm not going to check my personal email from my attorney. I would even silence any text messages from my ex for that time. And then afterwards, I would turn those on so then I can focus on that. So it did not distract me. So I set boundaries. I also set boundaries saying, okay, in order for me to heal and be in the right place, I need to educate myself. I gave myself time to be by myself, go on vacation by myself, eat dinner by myself. Because the whole time you're going through this, I think the hardest thing for me that I didn't see coming was trying to educate my family on it. And so my family was asking questions. Why do they think we don't love them? And why, if I try to text, your son that I'm getting harassment call or the sheriff's calling me saying stop harassing them. And, they just didn't understand it and
Right.
what happened. And so then you have to go to your family and explain that. And so that was probably the biggest toll on me is I could understand it, but I couldn't get them to read my books. Eventually, my mom did. And so now we're to a really good point where my family understands it. They understand where the children were and how they need to come back into our lives and what that looks like. And we are taking it as the child leads it, not as we lead it. And I'm also working very closely with my ex. So I'm not defensive. I don't get mad. It's very kosher. I forgave him for everything that he did. And I think that was because of my faith and prayer. And so, and you truly do have to forgive. You could say, I forgive, but you truly do have to forgive and let that anger escape and
Yeah.
release. So, where things are at today, I am again still not talking to my oldest child, but my youngest child has come back around and he's with the family. And even last Sunday, we had a family day for about 8 hours and we had dinner and it was absolutely great. So he got to meet his cousins that he had never met, that's 1 and 3 years old.
Oh,
And
cool.
so we are reconnecting. He was sharing his toys that I had kept for him. He went to the basement and got some of his toys and shared with his cousin. There was one. So that was really neat to see them play together. So I got a picture of that. So I'm very blessed. I'm happy where we are, and I will take any time with him that I can get and be a part of their lives.
I love what you said about the boundaries. And that's so true because you still have life still happens. You still have to go to work. You still have to take care of yourself. There's bills to get paid. So yeah, set those boundaries because it's too easy to let those emotions in and totally distract you and take you away from really what you need to do. That's a great point. So thank you for being on the show today. We've really learned a lot. Can and I'll put this in the show notes, any information on that parental alienation organization that you can share, that would be great. Is there a website? Right off the bat?
Yeah, I think it's npo.org.
Okay.
I work with the one in Ohio quite a bit.
Okay. But
But
there's
yeah,
national, and I'll put references to Amy's books. So, because I
yes.
think that would be good. And again, thank you for sharing your story. I'm encouraged by the progress that I've seen made in your situation. And, there's hope. And that's what I want to leave the listeners with is there's hope. As hard as it is that you're going through all of this, it does pass. May
Mhm.
take some time, but it does pass. So thank you again, Kendra. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bent, Not Broken. I hope that this episode reminded you that even through life's toughest moments, you are bent, not broken. If this message inspired you, please share, rate, review, and subscribe, as it helps us reach more women who are ready to rise and rebuild. And until next time, keep living bold and walking in your purpose.